Thank you, Madam Chair. Always great to be with you as well. Wish I could be with all you in DC. But you know, I guess that's a small benefit of this surgery. You can't go to DC for 6 weeks. But I do miss you guys. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being with us. I want to follow up on Dr. Burgess's questioning on the situation with Texas and our 1115 waiver. And I want to drill down as to why this happened. So this was a long-standing waiver, the extension of which was rejected by a career staffer at CMS who was temporarily head of CMS. It doesn't seem likely that they just took it upon themselves to reject that waiver. Who told them to do that?
Congressman, I wish you well and get back to DC, although I imagine you're not being in DC and getting to stay in your home state. But on the question of the waiver, again, I think it's important to recognize that Texas still has its waiver. Its waiver, it continues in force. Nothing has changed. What we're talking about is an extension of 10 years that was added to the existing waiver without public comment and without notice. And that's extraordinary when you think about it, given that it was a 10-year waiver, not a 5-year or shorter waiver. And you're talking about billions of dollars. And so what CMS is doing is what you would expect CMS to do, is we're trying to make sure that we're transparent and we show accountability, because we have to make sure we're following the law. And we're working with your leadership in the state and along with your delegation to try to make sure that as Texas moves forward, if it wants to continue the waiver, we're going to be working with you to make sure we can see that happen.
Okay, so it had your full approval to revoke that waiver that was approved by the previous or revoke that extension that was approved by the previous administration. It had the White House's approval, your approval. It wasn't some staffer that went rogue.
Well, I can guarantee you that there is not a staffer that's going rogue. But remember, much of the work that was done before I was confirmed. But what I will tell you is I concur with the actions that were taken by CMS in looking closely and working with Texas to look closely at the waiver that they've asked for as an extension. Again, the existing.
Well, look, I mean, we understand there might be disagreements on the interpretation of the powers under COVID, right? They approved it in a fast track way under COVID. That's what happened. Your administration disagrees with that interpretation. So be it, but to revoke an entire waiver, which has a massive effect for the future of Texas programs. I mean, it puts us into a very difficult situation because our entire system is predicated on this particular waiver, and it's a long-standing waiver too. You know, it's an extension of a long-standing waiver. This isn't some extreme thing. What is extreme is revoking an extension, which has never been done before. So, you know, if you have a procedural issue with it, I get that. But to take such an extreme action as a result is really hard for Texans to understand. And can you commit right now that if they resubmit, that it'll get approved?
Well, we're closely working with Texas to make sure if they wish to resubmit, they can. But Congressman, I would have to say that anytime you're talking about getting an extension 2 years in advance and using COVID as the reason why you had to do it without giving Americans a chance to know about it or to comment, that's, to me, is a stretch. All I know is that we have to abide by the law at HHS and at CMS, and we have to be transparent in the way we do it. All we're asking is that Texas participate with us to make sure that transparency is there.
Okay, so they applied for it under the letter of the law. If they resubmit, can you guarantee that it will be approved? If they resubmit it according to the law as they already did?
If and when Texas resubmits, we will look at that according to the law, and we'll go through the process that provides for notice and comment so we can make sure that we get the input of all stakeholders to make sure that whatever Texas does complies with the law and has the support of those who are going to be impacted.
My last question, you seem to indicate earlier that you actually do not support or do not recognize the statute on partial birth abortions. Can we answer that more clearly now? Yes or no? Do you recognize the statute that outlaws partial birth abortions?
So again, trying to be as clear as I can on this. There are procedures that are used in providing women with the health care they need, including when they have
It's a
reproductive.
very clear statute, Mr. Secretary. Please don't waver on this. The Supreme Court has already spoken on this particular statute. Do you recognize it? Yes or no?
Well, I certainly recognize what the Supreme Court has said, and we will abide by what the Supreme Court requires. And we're going to make sure that we protect women's rights to health care.
The gentleman's time has expired. We thank you for his questions. Heal and be well. The chair is now pleased to
Thank you.
recognize